Hello all sentient beings and welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk all news, comics, and media related to the... On this page-turner of an episode of Transmissions Alt Mode, we review IDW's Transformers Issue 6. IDW Media Holdings has raised $23 million, and Hasbro is going to establish an animation studio. Today is Friday, May 31st, 2019, and this is episode 131 of Transmissions Alt Mode.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that would welcome new animated Transformers movies. I'm your host Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Yusuf, better known as Yoshi.
Yo!
Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hey, how you doing?
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
What's happening? Let's talk Transformers.
All right, as always, we start off the show by thanking our Donatreons, those lovely people who give us money on Patreon and PayPal. You guys are awesome. You help keep the show going. And if anyone would like to join those illustrious ranks, just go to transmissionspodcast.com/support. And there you'll find links to sign up either on Patreon or on PayPal. If you are not into that level of commitment with the podcast, it's okay. But we still encourage you to check out our merchandise. So you could buy a Transmissions-themed T-shirt or other paraphernalia. Just go to transmissionspodcast.com/shop. That is powered by TeePublic, so anything you buy through that link from TeePublic will give us a little bonus. And, of course, we've got our own Transmissions-themed shirts there that you can pick up. You can also support friend of the show, K-Girl. She is the artist who has done all of our Transmissions podcast art. And she also has a store on TeePublic. You can go to teepublic.com/user/superstark. And that's where you can find all her designs. We have some of her designs on our store as well, so you can support us both at the same time. All right, let's talk about some Transformers comics and media, and start off, as always, with comics news. All right, well, first up, I think this looks like at least to be a conclusion for now to the ongoing discussion about what's going to happen with IDW Media. The company we talked a few months ago about it maybe looking for buyers or being sold, but it turns out in the end, they didn't go in that direction. They instead decided to raise some additional capital to continue their development of new TV show properties and IP. Recently they have recently raised about $22.5 million, $19 million from existing stockholders, and then an additional about $4 million from outside investors.
So the group that held 6% probably didn't contribute, I'm guessing?
I guess not.
Are these the same stockholders that recommended that they sell?
Well, no, that was a group that only held about 6% of the stock were the ones that were recommending that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it actually turns out that a large portion of the now that with this additional infusion of cash, they've reduced their debt, their overall debt, from $21 million down to $9 million, and most of their long-term debt obligations is from loans from the CEO, Howard Jonas. So I guess if you're the CEO of the company, you're willing to let the loans slide to your company for a little while. So
I don't know. That math doesn't track for me.
What?
You were in debt $21 million?
Yes. And now you're in debt $9 million.
After an influx of $23 million?
Well, they used the money for other stuff, too.
Oh. Okay.
So they paid off. They paid off what?
$11 or $12 million in debt.
Yeah. Okay.
And then use the rest for their TV shows that are going to flop.
But I mean, I guess at least for now, the company is not being sold and not being dissolved. So I guess that's good news.
Financial position.
Yeah. So maybe some of their shows will be successful. We don't know. I guess they're banking on it. So hopefully, we wish them well. We wish them luck. So, but the good news is
four powerful and original shows.
But, for us, IDW Publishing, their publishing arm that does all the comics, particularly Transformers comics, that will continue. And their publishing business is actually the business that is actually making money these days. So hopefully that'll continue. All right. So now going actually to actual news about the comics. So first up, we've got a little bit of a teaser from issue 7 of the Transformers series. There is a spoiler there, but it does feature Cyclonus. So Cyclonus was we first got a glimpse of Cyclonus in issue 4, I think, and he's back in issue 7. So you can see the teaser in our link in the show notes. But if you are really spoiler phobic, just don't click on the link. But it's just a picture of Cyclonus. It's not really very spoilery. Next, if you were looking for news about the IDW Transformers Ghostbusters crossover, we've got an unused cover artwork from John Gallagher, and John Gallagher has been doing a lot of the main Transformers books art, those variant covers, and he had a concept for the Transformers Ghostbusters crossover that is in a similar style, with the Ghostbusters looking more realistic, and then Slimer then paired with Ectotron there.
I think unfortunately, photos are still from the movie.
Oh yeah,
with the actual actors.
Yeah,
there's a lot of discussion about what his art actually is, because I know if I was participating in a discussion online about, somebody thought that he was tracing. And I said, no, I don't think he's tracing. I think he's actually taking photos of the pictures and actually arranging them in a way that makes a cover. So those might actually be stills from the movie, and he's just kind of placed them on the cover as part of the artwork. And I don't know what he's using for Ectotron there, but it just looks like a higher resolution package art, because it's in the same pose. Like the exact same pose as the package art. I'm confused as to what his art actually is. Is it package art that he's just kind of putting like a filter over top of to kind of make it look a little bit more real? Or is he actually just kind of painting over top of package art, or kind of photographs to kind of make them, just to actually just make them look artistic? But not really doing the art himself, kind of thing,
Yeah, I don't know. But he is on Instagram, so maybe you can send him a question there if you.
I should.
Yeah.
What is your art, really?
Maybe rephrase that question a little bit.
You say that like you're questioning whether it is art.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean,
we should workshop this.
Yeah.
All right, continuing with the IDW Ghostbusters Transformers crossover, we have an interview with Dan Schoening, who is the artist on that series. He is primarily a Ghostbusters artist for IDW, but we've commented before on how some of the preview images we've seen with his Transformers work has been pretty good. I think he's captured the G1 Transformers aesthetic in his art, so I'm looking forward to this crossover with his art. But yeah, you can check out that interview to get to his take on his thoughts on being able to capture these classic characters and combine them with the Ghostbusters. In particular, he mentions in the interview that he really liked the pairing between Peter Venkman and Starscream. Those personalities would be a fun clash. So I hope we get a bit of that in the actual series. Next, we've got solicitations for August of 2019. So these are all the IDW Transformers comics coming out in August 2019. Again, we'll link to the TFW listing in the show notes, but there is some spoilers in the synopses. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can just skip that. So First up, we've got Transformers 84 number 0. So this was originally teased for July, but it was pushed back to August. It's still being written by Simon Furman with art by Guido Guidi. So that should be pretty cool. We've got the main series, Transformers number 11 and Transformers number 12. Those are both coming out in August. On art duties in 11, we've got Beth McGuire-Smith, who is actually doing issue 6 that we're going to review this week. And then on Transformers number 12, we've got art by Kei Zama. So she's back. So it's cool that we're getting lots of, it seems like we're getting lots of varied artists, to keep the pace up in these series, and so to give the regular artists a bit of a breather.
If I had the Homer woohoo sound on the soundboard, I would have played it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's no secret we haven't been too enthused about the story, but getting the awesome artists on the books is always a plus.
Some of the art has been great that we've seen so far. It's just I'm a big fan of Kay's art.
Yeah, don't want to denigrate the main series artists, but yeah, it's always nice to see returning familiarity that we are in favor of. And lastly, the Transformers Ghostbusters crossover, as I just mentioned, that starts in June. So by August, we will be up to issue 3 of that crossover. And it's a 5-issue series, so we'll be just at the middle point there. So we will definitely be reviewing those on alt mode as well, so look forward to that. All right, the last bit of comics news I want to mention, so it's not directly Transformers related, but if you were looking for more work from James Roberts, formerly of More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light, we have found the next project he's working on. So Starcadia Quest, I'm sure you're all familiar with Starcadia Quest, that well-known tabletop game, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this...
I can't even remember the name of it. Let's try it.
Okay, so Starcadia Quest is apparently a very it's a new tabletop game. It was kickstarted, published by the company. Is it Camon or Cmon? I don't know what it's CMON.
Both sound gross.
So James Roberts is writing a new comic series based on this tabletop game. So Starcadia Quest number 1 is coming out in August. It's going to be a 3-issue mini-series, and it's a young adult science fiction story. So
stepping on his wheelhouse.
So I think I was a fan of James Roberts on More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light, so I am willing to check this out just for the fact that he's writing it. So I'm curious to see what will be there. But I just wanted to mention it in case anyone else who was a fan of James Roberts' work was interested in checking it out. Tell your local comic shop to reserve a copy for you if you are interested. So that will be in August. All right, so let's move on to our Transformers comic review for this week. All right, this week we are reviewing Transformers number 6, Orion Pax Freefall. This is written by Brian Ruckley, art and colors by Beth McGuire-Smith, letters by Tom B. Long, and editors David Marriott and Tom Waltz. We have 3 covers, just regular covers. The first is a cover by Jack Lawrence, colors by Josh Burcham. Next one is the cover B is by Bethany McGuire-Smith, although her name is Beth McGuire-Smith in the credits, so pretty sure that's the same person. But yeah, she did a cover for this comic. Then the retailer incentive is by Jeffrey Veregi, and it's the Take the Sky Bridge from the Moon to Cybertron. Yeah, so our last cover is the retailer exclusive cover from Greater Austin Comic-Con, and this features the Cybertronian Spree, who will be guests at that Comic-Con. And this is art by Matt Frank and colors by Josh Perez.
And I'm not sure, but I believe anyone that goes to their concert gets a free copy of the comic. But I'm not sure if I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
how available it's going to be outside of that, but fingers crossed.
Okay. All right. Well, Jeremy, why don't you tell us which of these covers you're picking as your favorite?
I liked all of these covers this week. I'm tossing out the Cybertronic Spree one because it doesn't have anything to do with the book itself, but it's an awesome cover. I saw the Jack Lawrence one, and I'm like, this one looks like a familiar artist, and I saw who did it, and I'm like, that's why I look like a familiar artist. And, I mean, it was good. The Bethany McGuire-Smith one, I'll have comments on her art in the review, but I'm really, first time I'm seeing her art, and I'm a fan. However, the one that is like, I have to figure out a way to get this, and I want this at like a print, is the retailer incentive cover, the travel poster. I was critical of the one a few issues ago with it, the Iacon one where it was like really dark. This one is what I like. It's bright, colorful, clear, and it looks like a travel poster that could be in a travel agent's office. So, or like a travel agent from the 60s, but still, I love everything about this one.
All right, cool. Yoshi, which cover are you picking?
I'm going to pick the Cybertronian Spree cover.
All right, not a bad choice. And Daryl, which cover are you going to pick?
Well, I mean, Jeremy's throwing out the Cybertronian Spree cover, or Cybertronic Spree, but I'm not Jeremy. I picked that one. It's great. It's really fun. Lots of color, and it's a really fun image, and it's. Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a great image. It's just
no. You threw it out. It's
you put it in the trash, Jeremy.
It's a cover band. It's a cover of a Jeremy.
Yeah, it's meta.
I also really do like the Cybertronic Spree cover, but as focusing on the issue, I am going to pick the Jet. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I don't think I said that.
Would you mail it to me so that we can preserve it?
We're working on that, Yoshi. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pick the Jack Lawrence cover, actually. I like that image. I like that composition of Optimus and Megatron, or Orion Pax and Megatron. I think Jack Lawrence is trying out a different style than the one he had in Lost Light. I think I like this a lot better than the rendering the bots, the way he drew the bots in Lost Light. So
being forced to use these particular models probably had an influence as well. But,
yeah, I think it's a really nice image. All right, okay, so let's get into the story. Transformers number 6. The first page gives us an abridged version of the Nominus Edict, the set of laws put in place by Nominus Prime to maintain peace and order on Cybertron after the War of the Threefold Spark. The laws prohibit Cybertronian expansion of colony worlds, strictly regulate the frequency of new forgings, and mandate energon rations for the populace to ensure that enough energon reserves are maintained to sustain the population for at least 10 kilocycles. We then open on Orion Pax and his meeting with Codexa, a Cybertronian that has been integrated into the fabric of the planet itself. Orion feels that something on Cybertron is going wrong and seeks counsel from his old mentor. But her mental state, after being integrated into the planet, is not as focused on the present. Orion Pax asks if she remembers him and Megatron. Codexa replies yes, she remembers that they were friends. Orion Pax agrees that they started out that way, and he recalls a distant memory. 2 megacycles ago, Cybertron is recovering from its previous planet-wide war. In one section of the city, Orion Pax sees his friend Megatron pulling on a chain to lift a heavy object up from the rubble. Orion comes to join Megatron, and they work together to pull out and recover a statue of Primus. Megatron, a miner, playfully teases his friend Orion, a data archivist, about actually getting his hands dirty doing real work. Orion responds that he wants to help rebuild and feels hope for the future in this work. As they continue to pull the statue up, Megatron is optimistic as well that things can get back to normal. The Constructicons are building a new arena, and Megatron plans to return to the competitions and become a champion again. And he hopes Orion Pax will be in the crowd cheering for him. Orion says he wouldn't miss it. Suddenly, a construction bot driving a hovercraft with building materials loses control and nearly spills all the metal beams right on top of them. Megatron pushes Orion out of the way, but has to let go of the chain to stop the falling beams. Orion struggles to keep the statue from falling until Megatron can come back to his aid. In the end, they work together to rebuild Cybertron. In the present, Orion Pax continues to muse about his growing rift with Megatron. Orion thought he knew him, understood him, but maybe he never really did. Not since their time on the moon. Another flashback takes us to 300 kilocycles ago. Orion Pax stands on the newly finished construction that has converted Cybertron's moon into a giant energon harvester. As he walks back to the space elevator, he is surprised to find Megatron there as well. Orion comes to talk to his friend, but Megatron greets him a bit coldly. Orion asks what he's doing here, and Megatron answers that he wanted to see the moon before the politicians take it over. Orion is also there for the same reason, sent by his mentor, the head archivist, Codexa. Orion asks Megatron, is he really going to run for a seat on the Senate in the next election? Megatron confirms that yes, he is going to stand with the new faction, the Ascenticons, founded by Termagax. Orion is a little hurt that Megatron didn't tell him directly, but he's happy for him, even if he has some misgivings about Termagax's vision for the future. Megatron is just as skeptical about Nominus Prime and the Nominus Edict. In his view, all the rules put in place to ensure stability and prosperity after the war are limiting Cybertron's potential, leading to stagnation. Megatron wants Cybertron to continue to grow and thrive as it did before the war. As they enter the elevator, Orion has news for Megatron too. He's going off-world to visit the colonies. Megatron asks, was this his idea or Codex's? Orion confirms that it was his. He didn't want to just keep being an archivist and succeed Codexa after she retired to immerse herself in the planet. He wants to explore and see what's out there. Megatron is excited to hear that his friend is embracing change as well, just like him. As they ride back to the surface of Cybertron, Megatron activates a manual override and stops the elevator. Orion asks what he's doing, and Megatron replies that he had a second reason to make his visit to the moon. He wanted to see if he had the courage to do something that would be the symbolic start of his journey forward. Against the protests of the computer-controlled safety system, Megatron opens the doors of the elevator into open space and urges Orion Pax to follow him. As they float in open space high above Cybertron, Megatron describes the metaphor. Perfect balance is an illusion and never lasts. You must pick a direction and move, sooner or later. If you cling to stability too long, you fall. Megatron hands Orion one of the two levitators he's brought with him. They will free fall to the surface and activate the levitators at the last second, landing safely. As they begin their descent, Megatron tells Orion to aim for the leachate lagoons and not to activate the levitator too soon. Orion is equally exhilarated by the experience until the end. As they get closer to the ground, Megatron and Orion activate their levitators. Megatron lands gracefully, but Orion's malfunctions when it opens. It slows him a bit, but he falls directly into the lagoon. He's okay, but annoyed. Megatron is amused and revels in the thrill of their daredevil act. Orion asks if maybe Megatron is just a bit mad? Megatron is insulted by the question and stomps off in a huff. He wishes Orion Pax well on his trip to the stars, but Megatron declares he'll be right here, building the future of Cybertron. Back in the present, Codexa starts to remember Megatron and Orion Pax as having so much unrealized potential. Orion answers that's what he's afraid of. He wonders if he can trust any of what Megatron's intentions are now. Codexa replies that they trusted X-Archon. Orion protests that Megatron isn't like X-Archon, who had a unique threefold spark. Codexa doesn't seem to think he was that unique in the grand depth of Cybertron's memory. She finally asks Orion what he ultimately wants. Orion isn't sure. Maybe permission to be afraid and act on that fear. Codexa replies that she remembers Orion Pax and that he was always so cautious and formal, hiding and suppressing his true feelings instead of acting on them. Orion admits that he's still a work in progress, but then asks what does Codexa remember about Megatron? Codexa responds vaguely, millions of sparks are all part of Cybertron and all are one. Sometimes we sing a single song, but not now. Orion agrees with that. Cybertron has not been unified for a long time, and he's finally come to accept that. And that is the end of this issue and the end of the story. So, positives. It is a single issue story. It's relatively complete. Actually, I wouldn't have been mad if this was the first issue of the Transformers series. Like you focus on the two main characters, you set up their growing rift. There's a lot to give you the idea of how the war between the Autobots and Decepticons might have begun with these two figures, with these two characters. The art is also really nice. Beth McGuire-Smith, I don't think we've seen her on a Transformers book before. I think Jeremy mentioned last episode when we talked about the preview image that her art looks very close to Sarah Stone, and with a different coloring style, but similar renderings. So the art is really nice. The story is still, there's not too much action, so really kind of not really a lot happening. So that's still, we're looking for something to happen here, and this is again much more just continuing the world building, the lore, the background, conversations, but not really any action. So that's a little bit disappointing. But yeah, I would say I would have liked this to be the first issue of the series as a starting point, and also as a self-contained single issue story, which I think is something we've sorely needed in this series. But at this point, it's a little bit of it's frustrating because we just ended on that cliffhanger last issue, and we get nothing resolved from that, since this is kind of taken out of sequence and not really following up on that story. So it's a little bit of poor timing in scheduling this issue here. So Daryl, I'm going to throw it to you. I think I can guess what your feelings are going to be, but go ahead. Let us know.
It's slow. The entire issue is a metaphor, right, for change. Mm-hmm. I think the whole Megatron and Orion on the moon could have been done in like 3 pages, maybe even less. He really dragged this out. This did not need to be an entire issue. He could have put in at the beginning what happened to Rubble, whether it was he lived through it, he didn't live through it, whatever. That could have been resolved. Could have tied up that little bow. Absolutely nothing has happened in these books. This is a standalone book. I'll give you that. The art's passable. I'm not really thrilled. I'm not wowed by it by any stretch, but I'm not disappointed in it. So I'm satisfied, but I am bored. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to say about these books. Like, yeah, I'm getting kind of fed up. Do something. That's all.
All right, Yoshi, let us hear it.
Does John Barber actually have any say on any level of anything of this book?
He's editor-in-chief.
Okay. This book is what John Barber wants to read. I truly believe that. I think from issue 1 to 6, he is absolutely in love with this storyline. And I don't think he can comprehend why nobody else likes it. I feel like I had a little epiphany through your review here, Charles, that they're trying to set up Megatron and Optimus Prime to have 2 overviews of what Cybertron should be, and neither one is wrong. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to fight over who's right, which, from my limited knowledge of Transformers, has never been done before. Transformers, in my mind, has been a battle of good versus evil. And Megatron's not being set up as an evil person here, and Optimus Prime is not being set up as an evil person here. It's like they're looking at this from a view of, we don't want Decepticon fans to feel like they're the bad guys, and we don't want Autobot fans to feel like they're the good guys.
Well, I mean, they've already, to a certain extent, that's been done in the previous IDW universe. I mean, it's been different in that the Decepticons were an oppressed minority in the IDW version. That then
sure, and forgive me. I'm not in love with the IDW universe, so I skip things and I don't pay attention. I did get the sense that in the previous stories, Megatron thought he was right, and Optimus Prime thought he was right. But at the end, it also felt like Megatron came to the realization that due to a garden planted beneath some fucking statue, he was in the wrong because he killed so many fucking innocent lives, and therefore accepted the fact he was on the wrong side and went over to the good side. So there was a semblance there or an understanding there of good versus evil. I'm not getting that. I'm getting this set up as it's right now. It's, well, my view of this isn't wrong, which it's not, and the other guy's view of this isn't wrong, which it's not. So that part on a very fucking as slow as this is going is kind of interesting. But why the fuck would you do that? That's so fucking boring. So at least that's why we're having this discussion.
In the IDW previous IDW series, you're coming in at the end of the story. Yeah, after the war, yes, Megatron was wrong for killing billions of people, but the reasons he started out the revolution was to gain, freedom from oppression for, people who were in the lower class. So those reasons were noble at the time, but yeah, when you make the decision to start murdering people, then you become wrong. So I mean, I think it's going to be the same thing here. Megatron starts off, he wants Cybertron to be all it can be, but if you eventually make the decision, well, the way I make Cybertron be all it can be is to start a war, you're going to turn into the bad guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's hard to judge where we're going to end up from, where we're starting here.
I'm reminded of the quote, one man's revolutionary is another man's freedom fighter. And if that's what they're going to do, fine. Start Megatron on his homicidal spree so we can fucking know good versus evil is what we're getting at here. Yeah, I'm slow on the uptake. That's how I'm looking at this. Right now, they're just trying to establish that neither idea is bad. And it's silly that they can't agree on one, since neither is bad. I'm not going to insult Sarah Stone by saying that this work is on par with hers. I don't think that for a second. And I feel like this early incarnation of... God, I hope Prime grows some balls, because he's starting to read like the Optimus Prime series. Yeah, something needs to happen. 6 issues in, I feel like they had a meeting at IDW and they said, we've got this license, we have to justify how much we paid for it. Get a book out now.
No, I don't think that's what's going on.
All right. Okay. And I looked at the sales numbers before you did the review. I don't think that's what's going on either. It just feels that way because this is so not what I'm enjoying at all. Mm-hmm. It was in the 11,000 range for those who were curious with issue 3. Mm-hmm. That's it. I've said my piece.
All right, Jeremy.
It won't be any surprise that I disagree with Yoshi on a lot of things, but I agree with him on some things too.
I'm going to flip my table.
I'm going to start with the art. I don't think it is exactly like Sarah Stone's, like you were implying. It's when I first saw it, it made me think of her stuff, and it's kind of stylized similarly. It's like more of kind of loose sketches rather than like the hard lines that we see with some other artists. And I really enjoyed it, especially with the way the coloring worked with it. I really enjoyed the art in this issue. I don't know if this would work with an every issue thing, but as an issue here and there, especially where the story would lend itself to be conducive to this style, like where we see particularly like where Megatron saves Orion from that thing. The background, you can really get a sense of action in that panel. I think this style works well for that. So I'm happy to see a new artist and come out of the gate with a very strong showing here. The story, I agree with you, Charles. This should have been, if not the first issue, it should have been there early on. Maybe even, I mean, they probably don't want to use the Spotlight name because that was used in the previous series, but something like a Spotlight, a standalone. You're doing 2 books a month. Have one of those two be, at least now and then, be a standalone book with a different title. Have this book just, be titled Transformers Orion Pax Freefall or something like that, where you can tell, okay, this isn't the same arc as the other books, but just having it as number 6 where we leave on that cliffhanger, this one has nothing to do with it. We have to wait another, couple weeks until we get the resolution of that cliffhanger. I don't know, it breaks the tension for me, and the tone of this doesn't fit, especially, it should have come earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like the characterization that they're giving Megatron and Orion Pax here. This story on itself, it was fine. Nothing happened, but it's a one-off book. You're giving more background and fleshing out the characters more. That's fine, but it shouldn't have been issue number 6 of this series where in the 5 previous issues nothing has happened. So
this should have been the free comic book day book.
It would have been a great free comic book day book.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a $4 book.
I don't know. On its own, perfectly fine book. In the series, I am begging for any kind of serious action. I am hoping the second arc does ramp up things quickly because, on social media, they're hyping this stuff as being a huge success. But in the fandom, I'm not seeing anyone that is backing that up with their words. In the fandom, everyone is just like, when is something going to happen? I think Ruckley is a good writer, but writing comics is different from writing novels. And in novels, you have the room to really pace things out slowly and flesh things out. But comics, you need to pepper it with some action and let a few of the storylines resolve while you're still setting up other things.
Yep. All right. Actually, I want to call out to our listeners to. I know we've had some discussions in our Discord. I think I don't want to call out our listeners directly, but I know we've had 1 or 2 listeners who have said they who have said they are enjoying the series and have laid out the reasons why they're enjoying the series. So continue to do that, and I'd like to hear from more people who are enjoying this comic series. What's keeping them going, and do you think our criticisms are overdone, or what are we missing? And let's continue that discussion. So you can leave us feedback or go to our Discord and go to the comics channel in our Discord at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord.
We want your voicemail.
That too. But yeah, it's really kind of frustrating at this point. Yeah, we continue on because we do. I think just being fans of the franchise and wanting to see this, at least wanting to see Transformers comics succeed. We're gonna continue to try to keep abreast of them.
And some of the ideas are really good ideas. It's just the pacing and the lack of action.
Yeah, and one thing I did want to highlight in Beth McGuire-Smith's artwork, I really think she captured the facial expressions and capturing emotion on the facial expressions of Optimus and Megatron. I think that was it's really well done. And yeah, the art is a little bit rougher in terms of it's more like sketchy, but I think it's a cool style and an interesting style. And yeah, I enjoyed this artwork, so I'm looking forward to more from her in future issues. So I think we mentioned solicitations. She's going to be doing issue 11 as well. So every 5 issues or so, it's nice to mix things up. That was Transformers number 6. Let's move on to Transformers Media News.
All right, in media news this week, we are given a loading screen on Transformers Earth Wars. This is exciting stuff. This loading screen features Trypticon and Metroplex, with Predaking and Superion as well to show their scale. Looks like there's some other jets flying around that you can't really tell who they are, but yeah, it's a picture. It looks cool, so you might be able to tag it or swipe it and use it for your computer screen or something like that, but it's kind of neat. Lastly, we've got a story about Hasbro is establishing a fully fledged theatrical production studio for animation. This is really cool news, everyone. We've got Boulder Media already going and doing really good work in Ireland, but they're looking to build another studio. It's going to house up to 650 staff members, which apparently is half the size of Pixar. So there you go. This is pretty cool. Looks like they're willing to really make a case for animation and put some true blue stuff out there. Hasbro does own some really powerful brands that got their start in animation, obviously. So could we see another animated Transformers movie? I think that's very likely. Could we see something from G.I. Joe? Why the hell not?
In this day of streaming, I mean, there's so many options for them to get stuff out there. Theatrical doesn't have to mean it's going to be in the theaters. Mm-hmm. And, with Power Rangers now,
That's what I was going to say. The good thing to remember here is that Hasbro did recently purchase Power Rangers. So everything from Power Rangers, I think, has been live action. We could actually start seeing some animated Power Rangers stuff, which is probably the best place for Power Rangers, if you ask me. I think it's really cool. This will be neat. They are looking to build the plant. It's a factory. It's just going to pump out animated movies. That's it. One a day. But they are planning to build the studio in Ireland, which is the home of Boulder Media. So maybe they're going to, amalgamate. Maybe they'll buy Boulder Media and pull those people into the studio. I don't know. Maybe that's something that's going to happen. But yeah, I'd hate to see them get working with Boulder Media and then do all this good work and then put a studio right beside them and then screw them over. I'd rather them buy the company and then bring everyone into the fold. But yeah, I think it's big news. It's something we've talked about a lot on the podcast over the years, that I think that the Transformers fandom and the brand could probably benefit a lot from animation, especially in off movie years. Sure, we get a cartoon that'll go on cable that you can see for kids that are just turning on the TV in the morning or after school, that kind of thing. To have something that you can pump out two or three a year that will be for different brands, I think is really big. So does anybody else want to throw in any ideas on this, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said, Daryl. I mean, I'm excited at the prospect of new Transformers animated movies, and I know there'll probably be computer animated, not 2D. I guess 2D feature length animation seems to be dead at this point.
Boulder does 2D style animation. Look at that Danger Mouse series.
Yeah, but for feature length, that's the thing. I mean, for TV shows, of course, 2D animation is still alive and kicking. But at least for full length feature pictures, it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of 2D animation. Which, and I'm in favor of 2D animation, but I would be happy with 3D animation. I just hope they aren't don't stay away from the Bayformer character models. Use go back to G1 or just back to blocky, animation designs. That's my only that would be my only recommendation. But other than that, I would look forward to new Transformers animated series. I think you get more freedom with an animated show, and you can focus on the Transformers as characters, not on the humans, because you don't have to pay human actors, and That's what Transformers is about. So it's all about the robots, not about the humans.
Cool. Well, that is it for media news this week.
All right, and let's move on to some Transformers convention news.
All right, we got a bunch of stuff this week. The first one, this is a convention that's happening June 9th at the Pasadena Convention Center that I don't think we've talked about before. It's called Robo Toy Fest 2019, and they have a number of G1 voice actors, in addition to some non-G1. They have Arthur Burkhart, who was the voice of Devastator. He's also done Destro on G.I. Joe. Buzz Dixon.
Charles's cousin.
Yeah, Charles's cousin. Buzz Dixon, who was, I believe, an editor on a lot of the... Buzz Dixon was a writer on G.I. Joe and Transformers. David Kaye, known for his appearance as Transformers Animated Optimus Prime. Oh, he was also... Armada Megatron, and in this little show called Beast Wars. But he'll be there. We got a lot of G.I. Joe actors here. Mark Bellamo, who did basically the book on the Transformers action figures. He's been on our show before. He will be there as well. So if you're gonna be there, maybe get him to sign the book. I think he has a new book coming out. I can't remember if it's on Star Wars or G.I. Joe. It'll be good to see him in person. And Paul Eiding, who was the voice of Perceptor on G1, he will also be there. And I believe that is all the Transformer guests. They have some people from like Macross and Power Rangers and one more. Wally Wingert, who was the voice of Cyburn in the best Transformers series, Robots in Disguise, the original. So that is it for Robo Toy Fest. Like I said, it's June 9th. At the Pasadena Convention Center. It's a one-day convention. It seems like it's like a lot of these smaller shows that they are focusing on. There's some kids play stuff. They're going to have limited number of like goodie bags and stuff. So any of our listeners in the Pasadena, LA area, let us know if you went and how it was. Next, we have a TFCon announcement. Livio Ramondelli will be returning to TFCon. He... obviously worked on the previous iteration of IDW stuff. I'm not sure if he's been announced for anything with the new. He's got his own style and does great sketches for at conventions. Look on his social media for any commission opportunities. Over at TF Nation, they have announced something called Color Me Curious at TF Nation 2019. Your Battle Unicorn is what this TFW article has deemed this. Essentially, they're going to have looks like a coloring book. This will be free for everyone that's attending under the age of 12. And if you're over the age of 12, you're welcome to buy one. There's scenes from like Transformers Animated. There's the Battle Unicorn, which is, of course, like it was a figure from the Beast Machines series. There's also going to be... the Battle Unicorn is also going to be in a book of its own, set in the Beast Machines setting. So that will be available to purchase as well. So pre-orders are opening up soon, and limited quantities will be available to purchase during the convention itself. The next thing we have, this is from Yoshi. He is going to be at the Washington State SummerCon.
The Washington State SummerCon is taking place at the Washington State Fairgrounds and the Event Center. This is going to be the weekend of June 15th and 16th in the nice little city of Puyallup. Jim Shooter is going to be there, and Jim Lee is going to be there. Those are the two guests that are Transformers related. I'm going to go meet those folks. So if you want to meet me,
awesome.
That's where I'll
see
be.
Jason Mewes is going to be there.
Who's that then?
You don't know.
Yes.
Marv Wolfman's going to be there. That's cool.
Good luck meeting Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, I don't know. He's super popular. There'd be a million people there.
Is it Marv Wolfman wrote?
Want to meet me?
Marv Wolfman wrote on the original G1 cartoon, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yep, he did.
Ooh.
Add him to your list, Yoshi.
I met him at C2E2. Let's see, one more convention, and this is from Daryl. He is going to be hosting a podcasting panel at Forest City Comic Con. This will be at 4 p.m.
Saturday, tomorrow.
This is tomorrow. So if you are going to be there, go to his panel Ask questions. Make sure that he's not sitting there asking for questions and no one's asking him anything. Help him out.
Please ask me questions.
But he will be talking about podcasting. So, in addition to Daryl, the dynamic duo of Rob Paulson and Maurice LaMarche are going to be there. Rob Paulson was a voice on Transformers. Make sure you go in and check him out too. I'm sure the voice acting panels are going to be hilarious. So that is convention news this week.
All right, well, let's finish up the show with some feedback.
Thanks, Charles. And if you'd like to leave us some feedback, head on over to transmissionspodcast.com/feedback. There you can leave us a voicemail because we want voicemails. This week, we are going to go to Discord, where Dinobot Maximize left us the following note. I would like to see you guys do a review of the series like the way you've done the last couple of times. You could pick an episode from the series and watch it in subbed and dubbed format and give me your thoughts on the difference.
I think there's only one dubbed version of Transformers that we need to review, and that is the Headmaster Star dub.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is absolutely hilarious.
I can get behind that.
Thanks for your question, Dinobot. And that's it for feedback this week, Charles.
All right. Yeah, I'm not too big into anime, but I think watching them subbed is probably the way to go, just because they do a better job of at least the fans do a better job of translating the actual original intent. But yeah, we'll get to we'll see what we can get to. I mean, we seem to have a little bit more flexibility in our schedule with the Transformers comics slowing down, so maybe we should expand our sites to more media, but we'll see. All right, well, that's it for this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Transmissions. But just because this episode is over doesn't mean the Transformers fun has to stop. Join us and other Transformers fans on our Discord chat server by visiting transmissionspodcast.com/discord. If you would like to learn more about how you could support the Transmissions Podcast, just visit transmissionspodcast.com/support. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, well, let's finish up the show with some feedback. That's you, Yoshi.
I know, I got sidetracked here.